Screenshot.
Yeah, boy.
So I finally decided to try the infinite cooldown build. Let's just say it's pretty ridiculous. It breaks the game as it allows you to spam all your attacks in seconds. Even skills that are supposed to take over 200 seconds to come back are usually ready by the next fight. I'm not the first person to do this, no, and I try to put my own little spin on things by using a sword and shield. Well, that turned out to be crap because applying probe with the short weapon was rough, and I didn't have enough cooldown. So instead, here is how you can make a stick or staff into the ultimate element spamming weapon. As always, it's important to grab all tier 1 skills as they greatly benefit you. For the main skill trees, we want Speedster, Mercenary, and Kazite Spellblade. In Speedster, we want to take Blitz and not Anticipation. This will grant us an insane amount of speed at high levels of alertness and get us away from enemies in an instant. In Mercenary, we aren't really using the tier 3 skill so much, so grab Blood Bullet in case you need a quick and easy heal. In Kazite Spellblade, you want to grab Elemental Discharge as this will be our main source of damage. You could take either Frost or Fire Infuse. Just chalk this up to personal taste because you'll need to grab varnishes for the different enemy types regardless. The synergy between these 3 skill trees grants us much more cooldown on our skills. We can also run forever as stamina while running is greatly reduced. We also have speed to get away from enemies and create enough space to activate Elemental Discharge. The great thing about this skill is that it deals good damage in whatever element you're using while also hitting with crazy impact. If you use probe correctly and apply confusion to enemies, this will stagger everything, keeping them from attacking whatsoever. We will be rocking the White Arcane Hood for this build, and you need to enchant it with Stabilizing Forces. This decreases mana cost by 5% and grants 5% more impact resistance. We'll also be using the White Arcane Robe with the same enchant. On the robe, you gain 3% more speed with 10% impact resistance. You'll need to legacy chest the Arcane set to get this version, but it's well worth the effort. Great elemental resistance in everything, some damage bonuses, and pretty nice negative mana cost. The real kicker, however, is the extra 20% cooldown with both pieces equipped. This is one of the best armor sets in Outward for mages, and with the enchants we can block a few attacks without falling over. The boots will be runic boots. These are great boots with all kinds of stats. 2 protection and barrier, -5 mana cost, and even more impact resistance. They're perfect for what we're looking at doing while also upping our defense. Enchant them with speed and efficiency to grant them much better movement speed and add 5% extra cooldown to the build. With this full armor set, not much can kill you in 1 or 2 hits, and you can run extremely fast, activating your skills very quickly. The weapon for this build is one of the most elegant and pristine weapons in Outward. The Ivory Master's Staff. Throw a Master's Staff into a legacy chest to get this, and you get -20% mana cost while it's equipped. Now, the durability on this item is just okay, but we won't need durability whatsoever, as all of our damage will come from elemental damage. Enchant this with Isolated Rumination for an additional 10% cooldown, bringing us up to a really high amount. The Ivory Staff allows us to use mana much more efficiently while spamming Elemental Discharge over and over and over, from way away from the enemy. It's also pretty nice for blocking and rounds out the overall look that we've created. Your faction quest will need to be the Sorabor Academy. This is entirely for Logistics Expert, granting us an additional 10% cooldown, 5% movement speed, and plus 5 pouch capacity. Once this is added in, we'll be able to get around 85% cooldown without a potion. Also, we have so much speed, it's actually crazy. As for mana, I would highly recommend around 5 points, getting you 100 and then up to 120 after your faction quest. I made this with only 3 points or 60 mana, and it was good enough, but when it came to certain bosses, I was using up a bit more mana than I would have liked. So to be safe, grab 4 points and move into 5 if you feel your stamina is okay. Mercenary drastically reduces how much stamina you use when running, and since all this build does is run, you should be pretty fine with taking larger amounts of mana. Other items you'll want are Zorn's Hunting Backpack, Mage Tent, and varnishes of every element. Your backpack will need to be taken off against more mobile enemies, but Zorn's helps alleviate some of the stamina costs when getting around. The Mage Tent is to further reduce mana cost and is just helpful. Different varnishes, however, are required. I tried to simply run with the Infused Frost, and there are enemies who will take 10 or more elemental blasts to the face without blinking. So having those different elements will give you the best damage against every enemy, allowing for quick kills without ever being in danger. Now, this build is all about making your skills come back instantly, specifically Elemental Discharge. You'll need to hit an enemy with Probe 4 times to get the extra 40% cooldown from Speedster, and this is the tricky part. I recommend using Brace and Sweep Kick to knock enemies back before trying to hit with Probe. Just because getting hit is pretty easy, and that'll get rid of your alertness that you just earned. Dodging right after Probe will usually mean you take no damage. Blocking is a bit too slow against some enemies, so maybe dodge just to be safe. Once you have 4 alertness levels from Probe, you can back out and just press the button Elemental Discharge is equipped to. Make sure you imbue the staff with whatever element your opponent is weak to, and you have Outward's Easy Mode. Alternatively, you can craft alertness potions and never enter melee range whatsoever, but that's merely another option. I will admit the damage of this build is not quite as high as you can get with other builds, but the range at which you can fight, and with such speed and impact, is absolutely bonkers. Like I said earlier, Elemental Discharge will wreck your weapon's durability, but this does not affect the damage from our skill, because the imbues are doing all the work. If you run out of mana or your imbue, you have enough speed to run to your backpack and refill up. This can be tricky to pull off in boss arenas, but in the open world, nothing can even touch you as you sprint off into the distance. Hopefully you enjoyed this build, and if you haven't tried something like this before, I would highly recommend it. Specifically with the Kazite Spellblade skill tree, because Elemental Discharge deals so much impact when you have Enrage on. It's quite funny to watch enemies be staggered backwards again and again and again. Well, you're 20 feet away. Also, this skill has a weird aimbot feature, and you can sometimes get the element to shoot directly through your back at the enemy. This doesn't always work and can cause you to miss occasionally, but it's fun when it happens. Thanks for watching the video, everyone, and if you use this build, try not to abuse those poor monsters too much. Catch you next time.